In the silence between dawn and prayer, the world still slept beneath its golden shroud, and the sun, trembling like a child at the edge of faith, waited for her eyes to open. For it was said, not in scriptures but in whispers carried by the wind, that when her gaze rose to meet the horizon, the heavens themselves would kneel, and light would learn what it meant to worship. Her eyes, twin sanctuaries where time forgot to sin, where even angels, weary from endless adoration, came to rest upon the mercy of her silence. She did not speak, yet the air around her was thick with confession, as though every ray of light had something to admit before her calm. The desert stretched endlessly before her, a sea of golden dust, but each grain, it seemed, waited for her step, as though creation itself remembered her touch. And when she moved, the wind bent low to carry her fragrance, the same way the call to prayer climbs the minaret to kiss the dawn. In her gaze, the sun learned humility. It had once believed itself eternal, the ruler of all mornings, the guardian of life, the keeper of glory. But when her eyes opened, it saw itself reflected not as a god, but as a pilgrim seeking forgiveness at the altar of her beauty. Her eyes were not merely light, they were the language of beginnings. Each glance she cast was a verse unspoken, and the world rearranged its meaning to follow. Even the rivers that fled to the sea turned back in shame when they realized they could not mirror her depth. She stood by the edge of eternity, and even silence grew reverent. The sand no longer dared to whisper beneath her feet for fear of breaking the hymn that surrounded her, and the sky and that proud expanse lowered its crown, dimming its blue to match her calm. When she looked toward the horizon, it blushed. The sun hid behind the veil of morning clouds, as if unworthy to stand in her light. It had burned for centuries, but never had it felt warmth so pure, nor surrender so gentle. And in that stillness, the sun confessed that all its fire was borrowed from her soul. The confession was silent, but the world heard it. Mountains softened their spines, oceans bowed their waves, and even time hesitated between seconds, afraid to interrupt her quiet reign. She walked, and shadows followed like loyal courtiers. Every step left behind a verse of light, and the earth wore her memory, like a prayer written in sand. She did not claim a throne, yet the universe crowned her with dawn. Her eyes were not meant to conquer, yet they ruled what empires could not. Hearts, silences, and the trembling courage of those who dared to love her. Even kings, burdened with centuries of arrogance, forgot their names in her presence. For how could pride survive where divinity walked disguised as tenderness? In her gaze, the world remembered its origin. The first flame, the first breath, the first prayer, all were reborn in the stillness of her stare. Even angels who had forgotten awe found themselves whispering her name, as if to remember what holiness felt like. When she looked at the sea, it forgot its rage. When she looked at the night, stars trembled like candlelight in her hands. When she looked at sorrow, it learned to smile through tears. And when she looked at love, love itself bowed, unworthy yet grateful, like a beggar allowed inside a palace. Every morning the sun returned to the same horizon, not out of duty, but devotion. It no longer rose to rule. It rose to be seen, its golden arms stretched across the sky, reaching for her like worshippers reaching for grace. And when her eyes met its light, it wept in brilliance, for even fire could not match her calm. The world called it sunrise, but to the sun it was confession, for in her eyes it saw its own reflection, not of flame, but of surrender, the kind of surrender that saints dream of and lovers die for. There were nights when her eyes closed, and darkness tried to claim the world again. But even then, the stars guarded her dreams, burning softly like candles in her temple. Each star a prayer, each wind a sigh. The moon became her watchman, drifting through the heavens, to ensure no shadow dared disturb her rest. They said the sun loved her, but it was more than love. It was salvation. For what is love, if not the courage to kneel before what humbles you most? And the sun, proud and eternal, found its peace only in her forgiveness. Her eyes, they were not made of color, but of conviction. They did not merely see, they believed. Believed in beauty's endurance, in silence's power, in love's resurrection. To look into them was to remember what the soul had forgotten, that heaven is not a place, but a person. The desert winds would tell stories of her, how once she walked through the dunes, and the very mirage became real beneath her, how the falcons slowed their flight to match her rhythm, and even the date palms bowed their heads as she passed, like scholars before a verse. One evening, the horizon burned crimson, and the sun lingered, refusing to set. It had one last confession to make. It whispered through the colors of dusk. I have burned the world to light it for you, but I have never burned so softly as in your gaze. And the night, hearing this, stood still, for it had never seen day kneel so beautifully. The stars appeared one by one, as if lighting candles for a sacred vow, and somewhere between those lights, the sun found peace, not in shining, but in surrendering. Her eyes had done what no empire could. They had taught the sun devotion,